Truckee Talks. I'm Maya Schneider. On today's show, we've got a very important topic, and I hope you'll stay tuned. This show is on foster care in the area, and whatever the words may conjure up, we have some guests here that are here to dispel some myths and share some information and perhaps encourage some of the members of our audience to become a foster parent. So stay tuned. It's my very good pleasure to introduce Maggie and Peggy. We have Maggie Turco. And Maggie, you're a social worker with Environmental Alternatives.
Yes, I am.
And welcome to the show. How long have you been with Environmental Alternatives?
I have been with EA for about 6 months now.
Oh, so you're new to it. Are you new to being a social worker?
Yeah, I just got my just got out of grad school. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And our second guest is Peggy Wiseman. Peggy, nice to have you on the show. And you're also a social worker with Environmental Alternatives. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you both for being on the show. This is a very good topic for us to be discussing. Before we started rolling the tape, I asked you how many children were in foster care in the area. And of course, you can number the number that your agency places. Environmental Alternatives is a private organization?
We're a private nonprofit foster family agency. And there are county homes, and then there are private agencies. So we're a nonprofit private one.
And how many children have you placed or are in placement right now in foster care?
Right now we have 9 children with our agency in Truckee.
That's great.
But we also have about 15 EAs throughout the Northern California area. So we have kids throughout the Northern California area with Environmental Alternatives.
Approximately 500 kids.
500? Well, let's talk a little bit about how a child comes to Environmental Alternatives. What's the process? Where did they come from? 500 children, it's a lot. Do some of them come to you through Child Protective Services? Or?
Mostly they come to us through Child Protective Services, and some of them come to Child Protective Services by phone, but some from the Sheriff's Office. If there's an accident on our highway, which happens quite a bit, the sheriff will pick up the children because maybe the parents are hurt or something has happened, and then they will call Child Protective Services and they will call us, and that's called emergency placement. So we'll place those kids. Long-term placement is a different process. Usually they go directly to Child Protective Services, and they have to have been taken out of their home because the parents are either ill or something's happening in the family that they can no longer take care of them. And then as soon as they are sure, and the court says, yes, we need to find homes for these children, then they call us, and we're the ones that find the right place for the right child.
This may not have a short answer, but I hope it does. In a nutshell, what's the difference between adoption and foster care?
You want to do that, Maggie?
Sure. Foster care, it's short-term versus long-term. Adoption is going to be for good. The child is going to become a part of that family. In foster care, there's usually a reunification plan with CPS in the courts where the biological parents are working towards getting the children back. So there's the court's still involved and the biological parents are still involved, versus adoption where that is usually cut off and the kids are placed with a family and consider that family their family.
That makes sense, yeah. In a nutshell, I think that's how most people perceive the differences. Well, what's the differences then between the county homes and the agency homes? How many different entities do we have placing children in foster care, and what are some of the differences between them?
Well, the county homes are level 1 basically, and what that means is they need homes just as the children who come to us, but they're easier to handle for whatever reason. When you come to our agency, it's a higher level. In other words, there are other problems, and so that's why they come to us. We have a contract with the county to take care of those higher level problem areas. If it's a county home, then usually they're reimbursed at a lower rate also, but when they come to us, it's a little higher level.
Okay. Okay. And who's determining the degree of difficulty in those situations?
The court.
The court is?
Yes.
Okay.
And one more thing I'd like to add with that is that CPS, when the county homes, CPS is usually doing the visits and is usually in charge of the foster homes, and they have so many different areas to focus on that they can't be out to the homes once a week, whereas private agencies like EA, we can get out there once a week and give the foster parents the support that they need, and we're on call 24/7.
Well, let's talk about that then. Let's talk a little bit about environmental alternatives. How long has that agency been around? What's your primary charge? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, we've been around since 1981, and like I said, we have about 15 different agencies in Northern California area. And EA social workers, as Peggy and I, we work as a liaison between the foster parents and CPS. So we're trying to give both people the best support that we can give them. We're trying to help CPS get the court reports and some of that information done, and the CHDPs for the children and all that paperwork and case management side of it. And then for the foster parents, we're trying to give them the support they need in working with the kids in the best way that they can.
That sounds like a great working arrangement, especially for foster parents who may or may not have other children residing in the family and may or may not be really equipped or prepared to understand what they're taking on when they take on a child in their home.
Well, and there are regulations through the state and through the county in which we must oversee. When we put a child in a home, we must oversee.
Okay. How do you match a parent and a child? How do you match a foster child to a home? Is it just haphazard? Do you just, here's a vacancy and here's a child that needs a home and that's where that child goes? Or is there more science to it than that?
Well, first of all, when we have a foster parent, we usually ask them. In fact, we do an initial intake, an assessment, and through that we ask them, okay, what child, what age child, what sort of child would you be more comfortable with? And so we have a profile of what they'd be more comfortable with. We know the ages of their children and what would be better. Sometimes, in a lot of cases, if they have an older child, they want children younger so that the older child is a good model.
What about the financial side of being a foster parent? How is that completely their encumbrance, if you will? Does the foster family say we're paying for this completely?
No, EA reimburses, and it depending on the child's age, we have a set amount that we reimburse for certain age groups, and it's automatically deposited into their checking account. It's tax deductible, so they get it every month. And it's a pretty substantial amount of money that helps with the monthly costs of raising a child.
So the financial burden really isn't that significant.
That's true.
As being a foster parent.
That's true.
Well, what are some of the downsides? What are some of the? I know that foster parenting a number of years ago had sort of a dark name to it, and I think things have changed. But what are some of the downsides now?
I would say some of the downsides are. Sometimes it's difficult for people to take a child into their home and bond with them, and then we're not sure when they're going to leave, and it could be possibly a year, it could possibly be a couple months, so things are kind of up in the air, and Peggy and I always give the foster parents as much information as we know, so there's no hidden secrets behind what's going on with the case, but sometimes what we know isn't really that much.
And you don't know, again, when the child is going to be taken back out of the home.
And one of the downsides for our foster parents, who are just wonderful, is that the natural parents, they rarely get a thank you because nobody's happy, you know. But they do such a good job, and they make the difference. They really do make a difference in a child's life because it's the normalcy of it that helps them.
That helps the child.
Whether they stay or go back.
All right, we have 2 more segments to go, and I'm glad that in the third segment we'll also have a foster parent here discussing some of her experiences. We'll take a brief break right now, and we'll be back with Peggy and Maggie from Environmental Alternatives talking about foster care. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Peggy Wiseman and Maggie Turco from Environmental Alternatives, and we're talking about foster care in our area. Welcome back to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about what is it that Environmental Alternatives does? What's the scope of your area, and what does a day in the life of your job look like?
Well, the scope of our area is pretty broad, actually. We can take kids from all different counties, and they mostly come from Northern California. So, but we're usually getting kids from around Placer County, from the counties closest to us right now. And we're trying to get our name out there. We're trying to recruit foster parents because we have so many kids that need homes. So many kids, and we'll never have enough foster parents, I don't think, to serve all of the kids that we have. But in the Northern California area, in Truckee, we urgently need homes. So
now, where is a child living that needs foster care and isn't in foster care home? Where is that child residing?
sometimes they'll end up in guardian homes, which are county homes. There's one in Auburn, and they're huge facilities where kids don't get the individual attention they need. They don't have that family unit. And they're pretty much on their own there. So we really want to hook them up with families that they'll be able to thrive in.
Yeah, there's no family support. Then it's just sort of an institutional sort of.
Yeah. How do we get the word out? I mean, I think it's critical that families know that there is an avenue that they can help these children. What age ranges are we looking at?
From newborn to, they emancipate at 18, of course. And we have so many teenagers that we need homes for. And basically, these are kids who, just like all our kids, have attitudes. I've had a whole bunch of kids and grandkids with that. But with them comes a little bit of baggage. But that doesn't mean that they can't be helped and can't be talked to. And in a calm, structured home, it'll work. With the right foster parent, they can be helped and be very successful, and we've seen it.
I think that may be some of the fear that a potential foster parent might have is, am I getting a wild child? Am I getting something that's bigger than I can handle? What kind of support do you offer for the foster parents in terms of getting acclimated with the child?
Go ahead. Well, we offer weekly support. We go to the foster homes once a week to support the foster parents, to get updates on how they're doing, to train them. And foster parents go through an extensive training before they become foster parents. And they have to have CPR and first aid and become fingerprinted. But we also offer classes. Peggy and I are really trying to get people in the community to come into our agency and offer classes and training for parents so that they feel prepared when they have kids in their home. We just recently had a training on HIV and AIDS awareness, which was really, really positive for our foster parents. And then they went home and talked to their kids about it. So we're trying to get the community involved as much as we can to support the parents as well.
Well, let's keep it on a positive note.
Okay.
When we were off camera, we were talking about some favorite stories that you have. And Peggy, I think you had a story you could tell us.
Yes, well, we were called to a place where a little boy who he had to be taken away from his natural parent. And they're always frightened. It doesn't matter if they're a teenager or a little one, they're still frightened because they don't know what's happening, and it's not their fault. But they sort of feel like that, like, oh, have I been bad, or why is this happening? So the Lions Club in Truckee, they do a wonderful thing. They give us some suitcases, a lot of suitcases, with handmade lions. They're darling. And each suitcase has a lion in it for a child to have forever and ever and ever. Now, most of our kids come with what we call soft-sided garbage bags, and that's exactly soft-sided luggage, which really is garbage bags. But this little boy didn't have anything. Nothing came with him. So Maggie and I started out, and we said, well, let's take a suitcase for him. So we did, and it turned out beautifully because the little boy said, we said, well, this is yours forever and ever and ever. And this is your lion, and wherever you go, you can have this. And he grabbed that, and he held it, and he said, my very own, my very own, my very own. And of course, we sit there, very strong professional people, and just tears.
Right, and try not to cry like I'm trying not to do right now.
Right, so that was really it really was wonderful. Another thing is we were able to place a teenage boy with his own sister. His sister had been adopted. She's a baby. She's only 3. And she'd been adopted, and this wonderful family said when the boy was ready, he was a teenage boy and had been in another even harder care facility, was ready to come out, this family said, sure, we'll take him.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that wonderful?
So he was able to be with his
and
family.
he is today.
That's such a great connection.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, I would think that would really help make a success story out of it.
It does.
Every little bit
Yeah.
that can help sustain that child's whatever happiness they may have. Let's talk a little bit about how folks can get a hold of you. I know in the previous segment we were showing a telephone number. That telephone number is?
587-1666.
And that's a telephone number to get a hold of environmental alternatives and get more information on perhaps becoming a foster parent if you have questions about becoming a foster parent. We also had an information app, and I think it would be a good time to show that screen as well, that was for more information on how to get a hold of environmental alternatives as well as child protective services.
Perfect.
We have telephone numbers for that. So we've got those on your screen right now. Again, if you need more information from environmental alternatives or child protective services on foster care in the area, these are good contact numbers. There's information that I'm sure people will need when they're interested in becoming a foster parent. Do you have books, pamphlets, and brochures?
All the above.
All of the above.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, we're really ready to go talk to them and tell them, you know, what they need to do. Or I think the main thing we'd like to say, Maggie and I have talked about this many times, is that if you've ever wanted to make a difference in your world, this is the way to do it. How better than to help a child?
Yeah, that's the future. That's the future right there. I'm sure that there are other ways that you're trying to get the word out. This is one avenue for you, but there may be other opportunities if there are members of our audience who belong to service clubs or other organizations that can help get the word out. I'm sure that Maggie or Peggy would be glad to come talk to your group or organization and help get the word out about foster parenting in the area. So important. It's so very important. When we come back in just a minute, we will have a guest on our show that is a foster parent, and she'll be sharing with you some of her very real experiences. So hopefully that will help get more information out for you. Again, we're with Peggy and Maggie from Environmental Alternatives talking about foster care. We will be back in just a minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about foster care on today's Truckee Talks, and we've added a guest in our third segment. We've added a parent for some real life experiences. Rhonda Shaw, welcome to the show. It's very nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Rhonda, what is your background? How did you come to be a foster parent?
It was something I've always wanted to do. All my life I knew I would do this, but we owned a business in the Bay Area and it didn't fit into our time schedule, and we moved up here last year, and as soon as we came I knew it was something that we wanted to do.
Now, do you have other children of your own?
I have 3 children of my own.
And how many foster children have you had in your home?
2. I've had 2 for 5 months.
For 5 months apiece or at the same time?
Together, brother and sister.
Oh, is that right? Well, Rhonda, tell us about that. First of all, why do you think you've always wanted to do that when it's something that frightens away people? What about it attracted you?
I look at it the same way as having your own children. I'm not really sure why it frightens away people. The problems or the situations they come with could be the same things your own children have.
Sure.
And I just feel it's so important that we give back to the community, and that there's such a need out there, and that it's our job and it's our responsibility to take care of our children.
I couldn't say that any better. I think if my mother was watching the show, she'd probably be shaking her head because I was a hellion. I was a terrible child, and I came from her blood. I mean, she didn't need to go out and find trouble. I was there for her. So you've had 2. Are you on a list to have additional foster children in your home? Or?
We still have the 2.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they're with us long term, and we're not sure how long they'll be with us. But
And how's the interaction with your 3 children? How does that work?
well, it was a family decision, and we talked about it before we brought them in, and there was a lot of anticipation, and it took a few months to get them because of fingerprinting and different things we had to go through. And when we got the call, it was like so exciting. It was like being pregnant and waiting for the call. And we
cute?
said, we'll call you back, and we talked to the kids, and we said, we have 2 children. They're a brother and sister, and they're 9 and they're 5, and this is what we know about them, and what do you think? And yes, let's do it. And they were so excited. And then the kids came and the reality set in. They had to share their rooms and share their parents and share everything. But it has been such a wonderful experience for all of the kids and all of us. We've learned so much in sharing, and we've always talked about appreciating the things that we have. And my kids have even said to me, how can you expect us to know what we don't have if we don't have it? And now they see children in their home that didn't have things, and I think it's really it's made us all grow.
What a great, I couldn't have said it any better, and I'm sure the 2 of you couldn't either. Is that typical, Peggy? Is that what you see in the field with foster parents? They come in with such a positive attitude and go out with even a better attitude?
Well, I have to use a word, and that's called blessed. Yeah, we have just been blessed with our foster parents. They're just really, and they don't do it because it's not a large amount of money. They don't do it for any money. They do it because, and they spend a lot more than they get, And it's just because they want to help and help children. And yes, she's wonderful, and we have other wonderful foster parents too who say, yeah, give me those 2 little boys who roughhousers. I'll take them. Yes, we really do.
And
Yeah.
that's such great positive reinforcement. Rhonda, what would you say to people out there watching who may have an interest in becoming foster parents, aren't really sure how it works? What would you tell them if you were sitting across the kitchen table from them?
Well, the children that we have been in 6 different, we're their 6th home in the last 2 years. And just knowing that they've been in other homes that weren't with EA, and I'm not sure how other organizations are run, but some of the places they've been, the stories that we've heard, they had worse things happening than when they were in their own home with the situations. And I just say, if you are a loving person and you love children, you don't need to worry about I just trusted the situation and that it was going to work out. I didn't worry about what we had to do or what we were going to have to go through or how much money it was going to be. It all works out. It all has to come from your heart, and if you have that to give, then it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, they go on to another place, and you did the best that you could while they were with you, and maybe another child will be more suited for your family.
And maybe everybody learns something from the process in the meantime. Maggie, what kind of screening do these families go through? Rhonda touched on that briefly.
Yes, they do go through a pretty intense screening. We have to do fingerprints and a child abuse index clearance. And with the new technology, we get that information back in just a couple days at this point. So it's not such long term as it was in the past. We get that information back, and Peggy and I often go out to the homes together for the first time to meet with the family and to explain what EA is all about. And we want to be realistic. We want to tell them, we want to tell people, and we want to let you know that it's not always going to be a perfect situation, that there are going to be some trials and tribulations along the way, but Peggy and I are here to support foster parents through those.
Who qualifies to be a foster parent? Can a single person be a foster parent?
Absolutely.
What other rules or parameters might there be? Who wouldn't qualify, I guess, might be a shorter answer.
Well, anyone who loves children, who can handle children, you probably shouldn't be 80, but maybe you could at 80. Some people probably could, but you can be a single parent of any sex, either sex. It's just simply the want to, and we know the minute we meet, Maggie and I know when we meet somebody, that they really want to do it. The first time we met Rhonda, she came in, she said, I've been thinking about this all my life. Even when I was little, I was going to do this. So there are no, you can't be a child abuser, of course, and you can't have 4 DUIs, and you can't, common sense tells you what you can't have. But other than that, no, we're quite open.
Do politicians qualify?
You bet, you betcha.
Well, that would frighten me a little bit. We have just a couple minutes. I want to wrap this up, and I have to say I really have been genuinely touched by what you do. It's such an important thing that we preserve the health and sanity of our future generations, and to place them in homes where people can care for them and nurture them that's it. That's the base need that child has to have met. Rhonda, I'm going to close with you because I think it's so important for people in our audience to understand that this has been a very positive experience for you. And I'd just like to ask you if you have any final thoughts or anything else that you would say to somebody out there who may be on the fence, may be interested in doing it, who didn't necessarily grow up knowing that they wanted to do it, but may be interested in that.
I think a lot of people are afraid because of the money, and I want to say you do get more than enough money to give them. Our kids take ski lessons, they take ceramics, they do all kinds of wonderful things. If the income is keeping you from trying it, it's there, and it's just a wonderful experience, and we have such a need in the community. Everyone should give it a try that feels that it may be something that they would like to do.
Yeah, well, there you have it. I couldn't have said it any better, and I won't try. Rhonda Shaw, foster parent, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you do in the community. That's a blessing. Maggie, Peggy, thank you so much for being on the show. Good luck with you and Environmental Alternatives, and for all the children that you serve. Thank you very, very much. Again, welcome. If you need any information from Environmental Alternatives, they can be contacted at the numbers that we've been showing on the screen. And if you are at all inclined to do this, please call these women. I'm sure they'll get you on the road to something that's very fulfilling. Thank you for joining us on Truckee Talks. We'll see you next time.